In the aftermath of Israel's public admission today of assassinating Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Hamas's political leader, a wave of condemnation and appeals for de-escalation has emerged from both Jewish communities and the broader international sphere. And the ongoing conflict in Gaza, coupled with the regional repercussions of such high-profile assassinations, has placed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the centre of an intensifying political and ethical storm. The killing of Haniyeh, who had been regarded as a moderate within Hamas, marked a dramatic escalation in Israel's conflict with both Hamas and Iran, and conducted in a guest house controlled by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The assassination involved Israel's capacity for precision strikes deep within enemy territory, but it's been criticised for undermining indirect negotiations and hardening extremist stances, effectively stalling any diplomatic progress. Haniyeh's assassination, along with those of Yahya Sinwar and other key figures, has been framed by Israeli officials as necessary for national security. The defense minister, Israel Katz, boasted of Israel's successes against Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran's regional allies. Yet such victories have fueled calls for Jewish groups and international leaders to reconsider the human and geopolitical cost of Netanyahu's strategy. A growing number of Jewish voices, particularly among younger American Jews, have expressed discontent with Netanyahu's approach, and a recent poll by Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs found that 41.3% of American Jewish teenagers believe Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And this figure reflects a generational shift, with many younger Jews embracing a more critical view of modern Israeli policies. Groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, the JVP, have gone even further, accusing Israel of orchestrating a Holocaust in Gaza, a term that has sparked outrage but also intensified calls for accountability. This internal dissent highlights a fracture within the global Jewish community, challenging the traditional monolith of support for Israel's government. Comparisons to historical atrocities such as the Srebrenica genocide have amplified international criticism of Israel's actions in Gaza. The systematic targeting of civilians, the destruction of infrastructure, the mass displacement has led observers to draw parallels with past instances of ethnic cleansing. Philippe Lazzarini, the head of UNRWA, described the situation as an industrial-scale killing, underscoring the urgency of international intervention. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, have yet to act decisively on cases implicating Netanyahu and the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. This inaction has fueled frustration as war crimes allegations mount without judicial consequences. Netanyahu's defiance of calls for restraint has not only strained relations with key allies like the United States, but also risks further destabilizing the region, and the conflict spillover into Yemen, where Israel is now targeting Houthi infrastructure, exemplifies the broadening scope of Israel's military campaigns. In Arab nations with peace agreements with Israel, such as Egypt and Jordan, public opinion has sharply turned against Netanyahu's policies, and political figures across the Arab world, including long-time critics of Hamas, have publicly mourned leaders like Yahya Sinwar as martyrs, framing the Gaza conflict as a unifying cause for Arab resistance. At home, Netanyahu's hardline approach has alienated segments of Israeli society, including moderates who view the ongoing Gaza campaign as unsustainable. Meanwhile, far-right factions within his government are pushing for policies that many fear will exacerbate tensions, such as the reoccupation of Gaza and the displacement of its residents. There are already adverts offering accommodation or sites that will sustain building in Gaza. Abroad, Netanyahu has found himself increasingly isolated. While US President Joe Biden and other Western leaders have refrained from direct condemnation, their calls for restraint have grown more urgent. But with Biden preoccupied by domestic political challenges, Netanyahu appears emboldened to continue his campaign until Trump's ascension to the presidency. The mounting calls for Netanyahu to halt the assault in Gaza reflect a broader reckoning with the ethical and strategic implications of Israel's actions. As the death toll in Gaza climbs, as comparisons with historical genocides grow louder, Israel risks not only international censure, but also long-term damage to its relationships with global Jewish communities and Arab neighbours alike. And one thing sticks out. There are two big world leaders who are now unable to travel abroad, Netanyahu and Putin. And the parallel between the two should be striking and disturbing. The question remains whether Netanyahu will heed the calls for at least a pause, if not a stopping, of this war, or persist in a strategy that threatens to entrench divisions, fuel extremism, and perpetuate the cycle of violence. The answer will shape not only the future of Gaza, but also Israel's place in an increasingly polarized society.